I don't feel so bad.
Hello, hello.
There you go.
All right. Hello, can you hear me now? I'm getting, hello, hello. Is the audio coming through now? All right. Hello. Okay, yeah, we got the audio now. All right. The microphones weren't turned on.
That'll do it.
I'm going to have to write a checklist here. Ray, do you want to, it's up to Ray's the chairman, so I just put this like this.
If there's someone else that does this.
Do you want to do the chat? Yeah. That way we're...
Yeah, I appreciate that very much.
It's okay. Oh, Jesus. Yeah, I knew she was short, but this is like...
Okay, all set?
Yeah.
Well, good evening, everyone. Today is Tuesday, March 1st, 2022, and this is the first Infrastructure Committee meeting of our calendar year 2022, and we certainly just want to thank you all for everyone that's in attendance here at Village Hall, and those who may be watching over the live stream. And if you can hear us on the live stream, just drop us a note in the chat to say we can hear you, wave your hand or something like that. Just let us know you can hear. At this time, we're going to call the meeting to order of the Village of Walton Hills Infrastructure Committee at 5:35 p.m. This meeting is being live streamed, and we do believe the chat feature is available for our live stream viewers. I'm going to read the agenda real quick so that everyone who does not, who's viewing and may not know what's on the agenda. First of all, I'm the committee chair, Raymond Whedon. The other members of the committee are Councilman Brian Spitznagel, Councilwoman Mary Brenner Miller. Thank you. Got it. We're also in attendance today is our street commissioner, Mr. Rob Kalman, our council president pro temp, Ms. Allen, who's also working as our technician today. With that being said, the rest of the agenda is a call to order, and then a discussion on several items, which include Dunham Road project closeout report, Horseshoe project bid and timeline, which also will include the Tulip Lane water main replacement, an update on the 2022 road program, update on the 2022 grant request and loan request, a street commissioner's report, and other business, and then we will certainly adjourn before 7 p.m. That is our agenda for today. And I do want to ask the other committee members, as it relates to other business, for the sake of help us manage our time, if there are other items you know now that we want to list under other business, we can do that now. That way we can have a better feel of how to manage our time.
Mr. Chair, I don't have anything.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, I have nothing either.
Okay. All right. I do have one, and that is that's actually I said we would cover it under. No, I did not say that. This is the Laurel Avenue head wall project. I want to make sure I put that down. Laurel Avenue head wall project. We'll cover that under other business. Okay. That again, we will proceed. Meeting called to order. And the discussion, the first item we'd like to talk a little bit tonight is the Dunham Road project closeout report. This Dunham Road project that started back in, the construction was in 2021. That was a project in conjunction with Cuyahoga County, as well as the city of Maple Heights, to expand the Dunham Road, or resurface Dunham Road, as well as to include a bike lane that runs all the way from the Maple Heights side up by Attorney Road, all the way down to connect with Tinkers Creek Road and over to the parks. This project was completed in 2021, and we do want to report that the project came in on time, and the project was actually under budget. The project, total cost of the project budgeted was $3,075,000. That's a combination of the responsibility of Cuyahoga County, Maple Heights, and Walton Hills. That's what the total project cost was. And the actual, at the end of the day, the project came in a little under budget. The actual final cost was $2,983,535.80. And specifically as it relates to Walton Hills, the Walton Hills budgeted portion for that project was $704,000. And then the actual cost for Walton Hills was $544,640.75. So Walton Hills portion actually came in around $160,000 under the budgeted amount. And it's always good when a project comes in on time, and it's even better when a project comes in under budget. So certainly want to thank our engineer, Mr. Joe Gelati, who had oversight of that project, as well as those from Maple Heights and Cuyahoga County, and I'm sure Mr. Calvin had some piece in that. So just want to thank everyone who contributed to the success of this Dunham Road project, and it's always good, again, for projects to come in on time and under budget. Are there any questions or comments as it relates to this closeout report for the Dunham Road construction project?
No?
Okay, thank you. Next item on our bid, it's listed as the Horseshoe project bid and timeline, and actually what it should have said is a Tulip Lane water main replacement, and I said that because before we can actually get to the Horseshoe project, which is going to be resurfacing, that should come later in the year, in the summer. There actually is a water main replacement project that has already been bid, and the bids are in and will be reviewed and discussed a little bit later on with council, with the full council as well. But I do have a letter from our engineer, actually it's from the engineer, Mr. Joe Gelati, of February 11th. And the village has received two bid proposals, only two, but two bid proposals for the project known as the Tulip Lane water main replacement bid tabulation. I have reviewed the bid proposals and have identified the lowest and best bid proposal as that being submitted by Trax Construction Company in the amount of $139,555. References have successfully been checked, and I am therefore recommending that the Trax Construction Company be awarded the contract for the Tulip Lane water main replacement. Respectfully submitted, Joe Gelati, Village Engineer, Chagrin Valley Engineering Limited, LTD. So we are certainly happy to hear that the bids have gone out and have come back, and there is a recommended, again, the full council has not, we haven't talked about this at all in CLW. I don't know if there's any questions or comments as it relates to this project for this committee before we move over to CLW. One thing I will say is that the project cost to the bidder, that bid, the low invest bid, is under the engineer's estimate, and that's also a good thing as well. The engineer's estimate for this project was $140,000, and the bid for Trax Construction Company is $139,555. So somebody's pens were really sharp for the engineer's estimate and a project bid to come that close together. Somebody's pens were really sharp. So kudos to I don't know if it was Mr. Gelati and his team for being right on target with estimated costs in this 2022 season, but that's a good thing. Any questions as it relates to this, from this committee, as it relates to this Tulip Lane water main replacement project?
No questions, Mr. Chair.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I have a
Yes.
question, if I may.
Sure.
The date is cut off on mine. Do we know how long this project will take to complete?
Yeah, what I on another document that I didn't have the other printout, but I believe it's 30 days. It's a 30-day from start. Both bidders both said, it would be about 30 days.
Thank you.
Once the project is awarded.
Mine
From-
has it on there.
From start to finish.
Mine said 3.
30 days. And it looks like both well, not both, we don't need to talk about both, but it looks as though the earliest start date would be February 28th, which has passed, but just to say it's from the date of the writing of the letter, on the bid, it actually said February 28th. I don't know what the bid cutoff date was, but it's not a big startup, it's not a big mobilization type project. It's pretty straightforward. Water main replacement, we're talking pipes and couplings primarily, so it's about a 30-day project. Any other questions on Tulip? Well, I'm happy that this project is there. It's ready to move forward. The Tulip Lane, the entire Horseshoe, Hickory and Chestnut as well. And we all know the village has experienced quite a number of water main breaks in that area, and Tulip being the lowest lying section of that area. I'm happy. I'm really happy that this project is ready to move forward. Ms. Allen, are there any questions or comment in the chat?
Not yet.
Okay. All right. So then the next item was the actual following the time of the water main replacement project. The village has already projected for sometime in the summer of 2022 for a repavement or resurfacing of that entire area, Tulip, Hickory, and Chestnut. So that again won't happen. It's projected to be sometime in the summer, depending upon how well this water main project goes. Again, it should be the water main should be a short, pretty simple project, 30 days or so once awarded, but then the next portion would be the resurfacing. Still has to go out for bid and go through that whole process. So for the residents that live in the Horseshoe area of Tulip, Hickory, and Chestnut, we're hoping 2022 will solve some of the problems, both the water main as well as the resurfacing later in the summer. So that's all I have as it relates to the Horseshoe bid or project bid and timeline. And I don't have actual dates for those timelines, but we're on track.
Mr. Chair?
Yes, sir.
I have a question for those residents living on Tulip. Excuse me. For those residents living on Tulip, 30-day project, do they divert water somehow for those houses, or those houses are going to be without water for 30 days while they replace this, or without? How does that work? We all
I
know.
think we own those, but I would bet Joe's response would be the water service won't be interrupted for much time at all.
The actual residents won't be interrupted
I'm
for,
assuming we run the line parallel to the existing line.
and then
as
connect
needed,
it.
Make the tie-ins as we have to. But, you know, I really don't know the details, but that's my assumption.
Okay, I don't know if anybody could, Mr. Chair, would you repeat that for the residents in the microphone? I don't know if the residents heard that. Well, from what
Yeah.
Mr. Kalman said. You want me to?
Yeah, you can go ahead.
Mr. Kalman stated that he thinks that the line would probably be run, correct me if I'm wrong, parallel until they're ready to connect it all up, and it would be minimum service interruptions to the residents.
Yes, minimal service interruption. Yes.
So, Mr. Kalman, just in case there are service interruptions, and there, sometimes when there are going to be in projects like this, and there is a known interruption, either the contractor will, I'm assuming, some of my prior experience, will notify, the customer, meaning the village. Okay, on this date, we definitely have to have water off for, 2 hours of 4 hours. And then if that does happen, does the village have a mechanism for alerting that the area may be affected? How does that?
In the projects that I've been involved in, when it's something that's planned, we typically put that on the contractor. The contractors we've had in the past have been very good about door hangers and letters, service interrupted on this date. And I haven't went to the pre-con on this, but that's typically the way the business is done. It is that, and of course, again, typically it's incumbent upon the contractor. If it's, I don't see how it would be done any other way.
Okay.
Of course, in emergencies, we do it, but whenever there's a contractor that's going to interrupt service on a planned date, no matter what the utility, it's incumbent upon the contractor.
Okay. Thank you, Commissioner Kalman. So just a quick follow-up to that. I know it's just not your responsibility, but we can get this question and any others to our village engineer. And it's also when we have questions like this, does the village in its contracts typically hold a pre-construction meeting with the contractors to go over these types of items and that way we get clarity?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So that's one for pre-construction. If you're generally in attendance of those?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much. Any other questions?
No.
Any questions?
Nothing here yet.
All right. Any questions from the audience? Okay. Hearing none, we'll move on. So just a quick recap. Again, we don't have actually any dates or timelines related to the 2022 road program, but I do want to just to reiterate that 2022 is anticipated to be a pretty busy year here in the village of Walton Hills. We've already talked about the Tulip Lane water main replacement, as well as the Horseshoe resurfacing. Other projects that are slated for 2022 is the annual pavement maintenance program, meaning asphalt spot repairs. There's an estimate of about $50,000 for that program, and that is partially funded by the grants, typically a grant from Cuyahoga County, as well as a portion of that funded by the village. Also crack sealing, which later in the year. And then Mr. Kalman, you got to help me with this Reclamite asphalt surface treatment. I'm not familiar with that one at all.
Say again.
Reclamite asphalt surface treatment. I'm not familiar with that. That's on here. The pavement markings as well, just striping, but yeah, the one item says Reclamite RECLAMITE, asphalt surface treatment. I'm not sure what that is.
Unfortunately, I'm not familiar either.
Okay.
Recline it?
Or reclimate. Maybe we can get some clarification from Mr. Gelati that we can share with the full council at a CLW. Fortunately, we do have 2 scheduled infrastructure meetings this year. Is that correct? One this today, and then the other one I believe is in September. But any other updates we can bring in between. But also on the agenda for 2022, South Meadow Park culvert replacement, and then the Alexander Road resurfacing phase 2, and that is from from Walton to Dunham. And as with that project, the village is still waiting response from grant applications, grant and loan applications. So we don't have a full timeline or update as it relates to those grants. Any questions on the 2022 program or comments?
Mr. Chair,
Yes, ma'am. Yes.
the Reclamite Asphalt Rejuvenating Pavement Technology is the original, it's a name, and it's corrective asphalt materials. And it's the RECLAMITE. So it's a certain type of materials they use.
Okay. I just don't remember. I don't remember our conversations around that one item. I don't.
Specific.
It gives the
Okay.
definition. It helps slow the raveling and aggregate loss. Reclamite can also be applied to new pavement in advance of mastic treatments or fog seals to provide a better surface for treatment adhesion. So it's just a form, I guess, of the type of ingredient, you might say, they use in the asphalt.
Mr. Chairman, could that possibly have something to do with the patching that we were allotting for at Barclay Estates?
Well, I mean, from the description, it could be applied to some. It could be part of a process, both for the hickory, tulip, chestnut resurfacing, any resurfacing areas. But because it was singly listed,
I'm sorry, Mr. Chair, is it singularly listed under spot repairs and crack seal?
Well, it's singly listed under on the annual pavement maintenance program, and there's these individual items. Asphalt spot repairs is one item, crack seal as one item,
Okay.
Reclamite asphalt surface treatment as an item, and then pavement markings as an item.
If I recall correctly, we're gonna marry up $50,000 that we've allocated with whatever the letter is we get from the county at the end of March, which usually deals with crack seal and so forth. We're gonna marry up that money and the stuff from the county, and that's gonna be a portion of our road program this year. So Reclamite would be milling and filling. It would be fixing, it would be similar to spot repairs. There's no roads getting done. It's going to be a repair. It's a mechanism of repair. I didn't know. I've never heard the term before.
Okay, all right. Well, I think we have a better feel for that. And only thing I can add to that piece, the annual pavement maintenance program, which has these elements. We did say last year, and we don't have minutes, but we did say last year that we would be looking to bid that work in the spring this year versus in the fall. And perhaps, like we have been doing in the fall, we do it in the spring, and then perhaps our residents can actually enjoy some of these improvements a little longer over the spring and summer. In these filled spots. So, and we don't have a date for those as well. So, any questions on that road program update? All right. So item 4 was listed as update on a grant request. We don't have any update on a grant or request or loan request. So we're going to move on to item C, and that is our street commissioner report, and Mr. Kalman is here. I do want to say to the committee that I'm really anticipating the hearing from Mr. Kalman for various reasons. One, because we know Mr. Kalman represents, I would say, the heart and soul, I don't know if that's the right word, Mr. Kalman, of our village, meaning the service department. I mean, we don't always see what goes on in Village Hall with the great employees that work here, or we don't always see what's happening with our police. We wave at them when we go by. But all of our residents at some point in time have some engagement and see our service department and the work that they do, whether it's all year round. So some of what I am anticipating hearing from Mr. Kalman today is just kind of a general update on how things have gone over the fall and winter, how the department has fared in terms of equipment, where we stand with the equipment that has been new equipment purchases that have been budgeted for, and then also if there's any projection on what new equipment or needs that there might be for the fall budgeting before we get into the budgeting season for 2023. So with that being said, Mr. Kalman, the floor is yours.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
would Mr. Kalman
Use the
mind
microphone.
sitting at the microphone so the residents can?
Please, sir.
We can bring the microphone to you.
Hear? Why don't you sit down here?
No, this is fine,
Oh, okay.
as long as you guys are good with it.
No, it's fine.
No.
Good.
So we'll start with the leafer. I believe we have a 2019 leafer that it caught on fire during leafing season last year. So it melted everything down, the wiring harness, the injectors. We just, we fixed it in-house, and due to the lead time on parts, we just fixed it. George just finished it up 2 weeks ago. We caught on fire in the beginning of leafing season. We ended up having to go through the whole season with our backup, our old leafer, and we just got it all fixed and working now. It's existing equipment. Moving forward, yes, monies were allocated for a plow truck, a large plow truck. We received pricing back on the truck. However, we have not received pricing back on the upfit of the truck, which includes the dump body, the plow, and the salt spreader. So because one of the responses I received back today is because of the volatility of the market, even, a dump body has increased in, over $14,000 in a month. It was the price increase. So as much as I would just like to pull the trigger once they have it built the way we want it, of course, we need the price first. We need to go before council and then pull the trigger. So that was just today. I heard, just the box, just the dump body on the bed increased $14,000 in 1 month.
Ms. Kalman, could you the increase to 14, could you give us a ballpark what that box total would be with that 14?
I really hate to, and that's just because, and it's not because I want to spoon feed the information to you guys, but it's almost like it's getting spoon fed to me. Mm-hmm. I get a price back from the truck company for $90,000 for a truck. Well, we allocated almost 180. Well, then I start reading through the paperwork. The minute I get it, it's a cab and chassis. So there's some frustration even on my part going through this with buying a truck when, you know, we said we want A, B, and C on it. So, well, you need to deal with the upfit company separately. This is something different. We haven't done that in the past. In the past, we've said, hey, we want a truck that has a spreader on it and everything else. It's separate. We're gonna actually open up 2 POs, one for a cab and chassis and one for an upfit company.
It's crazy.
So this is different than the way we've done it in the past. The total upfit, plow, the hydraulics in the box and the spreader, total upfit's gonna be around $70,000. So I don't have the individual price for that box that had the price increase, but I know the total upfit with labor is about $70,000.
So, another quick question. So when it comes to bidding for these types of trucks, would they have to be outfitted a certain way? Is there a good level of competition out there? Or I'm not asking you to name any vendors, but is there, you know, are there multiple vendors that once the specifications are written, this is what we need? Are there multiple vendors that typically bid on
When
this?
purchasing the vehicles, there's people that qualify, there's vendors that qualify under state bid pricing. They're able to give us the pricing, which is the lowest price.
Right.
And it's, you know, across the board. So there are certain companies we go with, certain vendors, just like, and it's the state. So, you know, you're gonna pay almost retail for this vehicle, but if you go with a different vehicle that it falls under the state bid pricing, then you're paying state bid, which is substantially less than,
So in the state bid list, are there vendors that can do the whole project, both the box and the outfitting?
there used to be.
There used to be.
Right, well, and we're trying to stick with a certain, we're trying to stick with a certain brand. And the reason is when there's parts to be stored, we can store 3 of them on a shelf instead of having individual parts for individuals. It just makes our maintenance and upkeep a lot easier. So we're doing our best to stick with a certain brand.
Okay. All right. Okay. Thank you, sir. Go ahead. Any questions before he moves on? Okay.
I don't know if I have anything else. You wanted forecasting.
Well, before you go to the forecast, I do have a question on the leafer. So the leafer, the 2019 leafers that you said caught on fire, and you guys have recently finished the repairs. So that's all set to go for the season?
Set to go.
So that gives you 2
It gives us
leafers.
2 once again. So,
Okay, and then since we won't officially have a infrastructure meeting until September, the chipper, that's in pretty good shape and ready to roll as well?
the chipper will be okay if I recall, and I apologize, if I recall, there was monies allocated for a chipper by council this past year, and I haven't even gotten into that. I've been working on the monies that were allocated for the truck. Another side note on the truck, it may not, with the build dates, and it may not even be something that we have by fall. It would be something that we're getting probably in '23 at some point.
Okay, but the chipper is not as complicated of a purchase. Kind of sounds like it was.
It shouldn't be.
Shouldn't be. Okay.
Mr. Chair?
Yes, sir.
I have a question. As far as the leafer, that was a 2019 year leafer, right? New leafer. Do we know how it caught on fire or why it caught
I
on
was-
fire? I'm not looking to point blame, point fingers or anything like that. I'm just looking to see if there was some reason why it caught on fire, that maybe we need to change the way we do things, our processes with it, or what. I have no idea why or what caught on fire, actually. What actually caught on fire?
The engine.
The engine caught on fire?
So what happens while you're leafing, if you're leafing with dry leaves,
Yeah.
there's a screen. You can't have this big pump suck all this, or vacuum suck all this in without some way for the air to get out.
Sure.
So what happens when the leaves are real dry and they suck through the chute, sometimes they'll blow up through the screen on the top. Almost the whole top of that box is a screen.
Okay.
So they have two screens. One is a rather like expanded metal and open mesh, and then they have something almost smaller, not quite a window screen, but a window screen-ish size. So what happened is it's a very light fabric that the smaller screen is made out of. When there's a tear in the screen, and the small pieces of leaves got jammed into the engine compartment and started fire. So the steps we're taking to eradicate that is we got a small holes on a stainless steel screen, and we're going to fabricate a frame so it's more of a bulletproof build instead of what you get from the factory.
Thank you.
You could just suck the leaves up one at a time.
You could.
Just throw them in there.
You guys carry fire extinguisher on?
Yes. We used it. Yeah. It put it out. It wasn't a total loss, so.
Are things like that, Mr. Chair? I'm sorry, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Already it's on fire.
Are things like that, like the leaf, or let's say it was a total loss? Do we have insurance on that? Does the village have insurance on our high dollar equipment that Love Insurance would cover?
George.
Do we know that answer?
That's a good question.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
Brian, I assume, I don't have the policy in front of me, but when you have a lot of equipment, there's an equipment schedule, and depending on the value of it, some of them are all lumped together as one like coverage amount, but if they're larger, they can be individually line itemed.
Uh-huh.
But that is not an accident or an act of God, it's just the use of it, so, and it's
Right.
wear and tear, normal wear and tear, so I cannot see any kind of insurance coverage responding to that.
Huh, interesting.
If a tree fell on it, or there was a car that hit it or something and it caught fire, then it's like an
Write that
accident.
down.
There you go.
So, forecasting. Somehow I always end up here. I indicated last year we needed 2 trucks. We allocated money for 1. We see that 1 truck is it's not even gonna hit in this next season. So this is, I don't know how long this is going to last with how, the acquisition of equipment is going to be this difficult. But this is something that we need to take into consideration. We've kept the other trucks on the road with the cost of parts, some substantial things substantial money's been spent on keeping these trucks on the road. The average lifespan of a single axle dump is in a municipality use is 11 years. We've exceeded that on all the trucks. So, I don't have the figures written down. I mean, we had over $24,000 put into one truck, just for it to come back and the wipers go out and it shorts out a body control module, and we put almost another $3,000 into it. So I believe that, I mean, it doesn't matter how pretty the trucks are. I believe we've reached our life expectancy with the plow equipment. And in order to keep the maintenance of these roads up to the standards that the community is used to, we need to put, we should be at this point now, for the money that we're putting in the trucks and the lead time on what it's going to take trucks, we need to pull the trigger on a big truck per year. And that has nothing to do with forecasting the rest of the fleet. So I've said, not to this committee, but I have brought it up for 5 years now, that we need to start looking at this. Well, now we do. And in my opinion, we should, like I said, we should be ordering one every year from this point out until we replenish the fleet.
So if you can, Mr. Calvin, if you can refresh the truck that was allocated for this year, that is a big truck?
That's big trucks, large single axle dump.
Okay, but it's still not, with whatever's going on in the world, it's just not. But then, so for forecasting for 2020, well, although that probably won't get delivered until 2023. In addition to that one large, you're saying another large.
And then the year after that, another one.
So so we're kind of talking about 2024 for the second, just because of the way the timing of.
We'll be out, I think we'll be out to 2025 if we're able to get council to allocate funding each year. So what's allocated in 21, we're not even going to see to 23. So I'm saying we should pull the trigger and order another one, because then we're going to, if we ordered another one right now, maybe we'd see that one in 23, but you're already going 24. So you're actually looking at, it's going to be roughly a year lead time. If we allocate the funding each year, it'll be 23, 24, 25. That will be replenishing the existing trucks.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, sir, Mr. Spitznagel.
thank you. We paid down this past year on this budget a significant portion of our debt. I would suggest we have Angelo run some numbers for us for debt, what type of debt we can get as far as the number of years payment on vehicles. I know they're nowhere near what roads are. But since we did pay down a significant portion of our debt, $1 million more than what we were going to, by my rough calculations, I would suggest we look into that and purchasing that on that debt, on new debt. That doesn't equal the debt we had before. You know what I mean? The total debt. So we can get this equipment, as Mr. Kalman said, going. And that would be my recommendation, to look hard at those numbers to see where that's going to leave us. If we did that this year, where the projection is at the end of the year budget, if we allocated that money under the assumption of rolling it into debt.
Into
the next year.
23.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Well, and that's a good comment, Mr. Councilman Spitznagel. As I talked to Commissioner Kalman, one of the things we talked about is we need to know in March as much as possible, or soon thereafter, these types of things, just for that reason.
Right.
And not, we don't want to start talking about, large trucks in September, then we're getting ready to go into the full budget cycle, and that, let's get this stuff up early so that Angela can have plenty of time to factor it in, if we're looking at doing it under debt. So you're absolutely right, and I agree.
I agree.
Yeah.
I know there was some discussions in the past about looking into municipal leases. I don't know if we ever looked into that. I know there was a concern of us being qualified maybe, or,
Yeah, I don't know where it went. I know that they were looking.
Yes.
but
we
I do
discussed it,
know,
but-
like on a big truck, you're getting all of that truck. One, that's almost how all communities do it. I mean, we really are the anomaly because we're used to scratching a check for absolutely anything we want. Most communities that I speak to, they do municipal leases. They're cutting a check for 36 grand a year for 5 years, they own the vehicle, or whatever it breaks down to. I strongly suggest we consider that, so we could pull the trigger on 2 vehicles instead of 1. Because the other thing, not to switch topics, but equipment needs, the other thing that's gonna come up is our small dump truck. You know, this is a dump truck. I'd like to save it. I'd like to save it. It only has 50,000 miles on it. It's a great vehicle. But the upfit that we performed then, this goes back 2 years ago, I spoke to council about it. We historically have moved forward in purchasing the least expensive thing we can. Well, then we get the least expensive product. So we have a 2014 F-450 right now. It is a great vehicle. The dump body is rusted through because it was the cheapest upfit we could get. So that's, you know, when we talk about 23, 24, 25, getting big trucks, the 2014, I mean, we'll keep patching it up, but that's almost going to be out of its life expectancy. So I don't know. I mean, I have a couple ideas of what we can do with that, but that vehicle, that small dump would be next on the horizon. Not necessarily after the 3 big dump trucks, but mixed in there at the same time.
Okay. Any other questions?
Mr. Chair, I believe it was Angela who discussed in one of our meetings that she was going to talk to I hate to use the term, the dealership or whoever you go to about leasing. And I don't know if she did or not. She's got a lot of things going on, but I think it was her who mentioned the leases. So we could revisit that.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, Ms. Allen?
I know that the police department had talked about possibility of leasing vehicles, because there's also a buyback program after the average life expectancy. So, Rob, do you know where to start looking about this leasing info? Or should we, I mean, we can ask Angela to look back into it, because I believe Councilwoman Brenner Miller's correct that she had said something initially. But if you had a starting point of where we could, is it just straight with the dealership?
Yeah, I mean, it's offered through many dealerships,
Okay.
and especially it's offered through Kenworth, it's offered through International, it's offered through Ford. It's many for large equipment. It's offered, and I had thought maybe something was communicated that we were going to check with our own bank or something. I'm not certain if I recall that properly, but I certainly think it would be worth looking into.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, Ms. Allen?
Rob, I know that we talked about budget last year and stuff, and I'd made mention about asking the departments to come up with like a 5-year plan. So is that something that you've been working on and we could possibly discuss with you next week at the finance meeting if you're able to attend?
I'd be happy to.
Okay.
Only other question I have, Mr. Calman, if that's all your projections, is just in a general sense, how things are going in the department. As I said earlier, I saw the guys out, your crews out, not the guys, your crews out today, doing some patching. Just in general, how you guys made it through the winter, with salt supply and mailbox replacements and patching, all those good things that you do in this time of the year.
I think we've been doing okay. It seems like the snow and ice this year is a little bit different than in years past. Kind of get it all at once. But we've been able to stay on top of it. I haven't had a lot of complaints, so that means we're doing good. I mean, as soon as we get the snow melt, we do our patches and maintain berms. So sometimes it's amazing from where I sit when we talk about behind the scenes stuff to actually see what it takes to make those roads wet at 7 a.m. after, and it's, you guys got a good group of guys. I mean, equipment's gonna break down if it's new or old. I mean, we've had major stuff happen, and it's been put together and back on the road, not only by George. I mean, it's pretty amazing, actually. But, yeah, no, and the guys are staying busy. We're doing some interior facility stuff, swapping out light bulbs, changing ballasts, fixing toilets. We're getting that kind of stuff done, as well as we're building cabinetry for the police evidence room. So we're staying busy and maintaining the vehicles to keep them on the road for the next big storm. So all in all, salt-wise, we're okay. Had a good price on it this year. As you know, we put in for our salt quantity prior to us knowing what it costs, which has always been interesting. But we're doing okay with salt. I think we're just at 1,000 tons, a little bit over 1,000 tons now. Our typical order in the past was 2,400. Because of the last two light winters, I choked it down to 1,800. So we should see our way through the rest of this season okay.
Any other questions for Mr. Kalman?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, Ms. Allen?
While I have you here, Rob, a couple of questions I wanted to ask. Is there any status on the light in the police department, the lower lot, that spotlight, floodlight?
Absolutely, yes, it's broke.
I could see that. Do we know what it would take to try to get that replaced or
We need
anything?
to
Is there any idea?
line. We need to run a line to it. There's a fault somewhere underground.
Okay.
So we will need to run a new line out to the fixture and rewire it. I was thinking about that the other day. That's something that's more labor intensive than anything else. I really, being budget minded, I hate to pull the trigger and hire an electrical company to do it. Since we have the equipment, we can do it.
Mm-hmm.
I know it's resurfaced. I know, I mean, we might just end up going ahead and hiring somebody. I mean, that's something on my list to talk to the chief about. His officers reached out to me, and last year, the season got away from me, and I wasn't able to get it done last year. So that's on my list to talk to the chief when I get a chance. If we need to, we'll hire somebody. I hate to do it because it'll be a lot more expensive than if we just self-perform it. So.
Would there be any way to run the line around the parking lot, even though that's probably twice as far?
Oh, no, that's exactly what we need to do.
Oh, okay.
The existing line is technically ran around the parking lot.
Okay.
So when we try to trace it down, so it's like 160 or 180 feet to run the line.
Mm-hmm.
So.
The other thing I wanted to ask you, because I had a call from a resident about the industrial area, Crick Road, and apparently there's a lot of what appears to be abandoned vehicles there, semis and cars. Some of them are even up on blocks. And the resident has a business, so they're driving past there all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And they are not happy with the way that area looks. Is that something that falls to you guys?
It's actually, it falls in between zoning and it also falls under 660, which is a criminal offense code, which would be enforced by the police. It's kind of, I can't forcefully go make somebody move a vehicle, and it's even worse when it's out of my code section. If it's 660, I can't enforce 660.
Okay.
That's something that needs to be enforced by the police.
Okay, because they said that a lot of the vehicles look like they're not even, probably not registered because there's no plates on them, things like that.
And that falls into a police. I'm not certain how that works. I really am not when it comes to unlicensed immobile vehicles, and a lot of that. What falls under zoning is parking, and where you can park a vehicle, and it gets kind of gray. It gets a gray area, but it's most definitely covered in 660, which is safety, sanitation, and health.
Okay.
And it's out of my purview to issue a citation for that.
Okay.
So,
Because it does look pretty bad back there. And the resident went so far as to surmise that possibly the parking lot was being rented out for these vehicles. Now, I don't know if that's true or not, but, if so, zoning-wise, can you rent your parking lot out to store vehicles on?
can you? Yes. I mean, you can.
Okay.
Zoning-wise, you can. I mean, I'm not going to say names, yeah, there's a large, very large company that has been leasing their parking lot to drivers, and it's been going on for about 25 years now.
Oh,
So, which is even, in a zoning standpoint, is even more difficult for me to, I think there's more bite with personally, I think there's more bite with an officer. Especially if it falls under one of their criminal offense codes. Move it.
right.
I mean, I've written many letters trying to eradicate some of this without being able to move forward over the years that I've been here, so.
Okay. Thank you.
All right.
Any other questions for Mr. Kalman? Thank you, sir. But you can stay right there if you don't mind. Because the last item we have on the agenda is the Laurel Avenue head wall project. And I know this project goes back to 2021 where there was two parts. First part was handled in-house. That was some drainage repairs along as we come down to the bottom of Laurel Avenue, and I know the service department crews did a great job of repairing that. And first of all, I wanted to say thank you again for the great work you guys did. And then the second half of that project is going to be a head wall replacement, which I don't know what the name of that, if that water stream has a name or not, but it's a head wall replacement that has to get done down there sometime this spring. And Mr. Gelati has indicated that he suggested to the mayor that a letter be sent out to the residents in that area, in that affected area, to kind of let them know there may be some activity coming soon. But I don't know, about bidding for that project as well, or quoting. I don't know if that's something that Mr. Gelati has communicated with you by chance.
Well, they're gonna get in there. The letter's gonna go out for the activity, just so the residents are made aware. They'll get their CDE, will get their surveyors in there, get a set of plans drawn, and once that's completed, then we'll go out to bid for the project. That was that'll be sometime late spring, summer.
Okay. All right, thank you. Well, any other, we have last item is other business, and open the floor if there's other business from Any of the committee members first?
No, Mr. Chairman?
No, well, Mr. Kalman is here, just thought of it a second. I know we talked about, I know what you're probably going to say. We talked about the roof, you know, and the $400,000 repair, the roof of this particular building. Do you have any, and we aren't moving forward with an entire roof thing, do you have any thing on your schedule to go up and take a look at that roof and patch and repair as needed?
No.
No? Okay.
No, I mean, I guess the way it's been scheduled, we get a leak, we go fix it. So I don't have anything, especially for as fluid as my team has to remain. We are reactive much more than proactive. So if there's a leak, we fix it. And I think that's the way, our guys aren't roofers. Fortunate to have one guy that has done it before. We put Band-Aids on it when we need to, is really what it comes down to.
Okay, thanks.
I'm sorry if that's not the best answer, but it's
It's the truth.
it's the
I was
truth.
looking for an answer.
Yeah, it's the truth. We got 2 leaks just happened with this rainfall today on one of our other facilities. You send the guys out there, we do what we can do, call the professionals if we didn't fix it. I mean, that's where we're at.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions from the audience, in the chat, or participating audience, anyone here? If not, I'm going to say this March 1st, 2022 Infrastructure Committee is adjourned. Well, can I get a motion to adjourn?
Mr. Chair, I make a motion to adjourn the Infrastructure Committee meeting of March 1st, 2022.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Well, meeting is adjourned. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Now, Brian, is this just up at the top where it says end stream?
Let's see.
Although we probably
Yep,
want
you
to,
can just send
wait a
that
minute
stream.
so that they get the last, because we are slightly lagged.
Well, I think it'll go through.
Okay.
There, and then you can close that out.